Especially when I was married, I learned about narcissism. And I didn't really know what that was, but it took me down a rabbit hole of understanding the dynamics of narcissistic people. People who everything in life has to be about them, for them, because of them. As a recovering people pleaser, aka the strong friend, when we're younger, we like it because it makes us feel like we have value. But as we get older, it's exhausting because why y'all can't figure this out without me? But I've already put myself in a position to be able to do those things.
Yeah.
So me learning how to unlearn those things, I learned about, oh wait, you're too nice or you're too strict, which means that you don't have healthy boundaries. This is me talking to myself.
I actually had a friend of mine who did that, and I want to go get my metabolic system checked to see where I am in balance at, because I believe that is almost like a grief hack in a certain sense when it comes to having that understanding about yourself, because understanding that and putting the right things in place and balancing that back out makes this journey a lot easier.
And I felt it in my shoulders, and I felt it in my back, and I felt everything tighten up. I call that healing in real time because I noticed it then versus 2 weeks later.
Sure.
When we have those moments on a regular, everyday basis, if you don't give that energy a place to go, then it becomes like impacted in our body, and it becomes a part of your personality and who you are and how you show up.
There are a few things that shake us to the core like a health crisis. For Montoyia Denise McGowan, licensed clinical social worker, Army veteran, and the visionary behind Bougie boundaries. That moment came just 2 years ago. She found herself navigating not only her own body's limits, but also the unexpected challenge of asking for help and allowing herself to receive it. Montoya's story is about more than survival. It's about what happens when vulnerability meets preparation, when boundaries become lifelines, and when legacy means choosing not to suffer alone. With over a decade of experience in private practice, Montoya has dedicated her career to helping achieving professionals, entrepreneurs, and creatives cultivate the emotional wealth through radical self-awareness and through trauma-informed healing. And today, she's here to share how preparation, financially, emotionally, and spiritually, has shaped her journey, and how we can all learn to create lives rooted in worth and not constant hustle. Because when the what if happens, you would have wished you had. Hello, Montoya. Welcome and thank you.
Hey,
How you
Jason.
doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for this. I was looking forward to this.
No, absolutely. Me too. I think the first time we met, we had a great conversation. And, these are the conversations that I enjoy having because they are rooted in just truth and transparency. And I believe that it's going to help a lot of people just really start to unpack different aspects of preparation. And as I was reading through this, as I was saying once again, and just thinking about the boundaries and how I didn't prepare and my lack of preparations for boundaries going through the situation that I went through, the lack of preparation and boundaries cost me a lot of money. It cost me around 6 figures because of my lack of boundaries and preparation for it. And I look back at it where there weren't conversations around how do you set boundaries or prepare boundaries for death and after, and moving people in and out, and how to move and operate. That just didn't have those conversations. So I'm excited to dive deeper into just the overall aspect because, like you said, I do believe that your wealth is directly connected to your mental, emotional state, and also the boundaries that you create, because that does draw from every aspect of that. And I am a walking testimony of that.
Yeah, same.
But awesome. Well, as I always say, I like to just dive right in. And we're going to start with vulnerability is a strength and not a weakness. So you've shared that your what if moment came during a health crisis 2 years ago. I want to start there. Could you tell us more about that?
I was experiencing burnout and a hormone imbalance, but I didn't know it. I just felt like I was lazy and I couldn't do enough. I wasn't doing enough. I wasn't knocking stuff off of my to do list fast enough. I wasn't able to go at the full rate of speed that I was normally used to. And at some point it got to the point to where I couldn't get out of bed unless somebody was looking for me. Like if somebody was looking for me, I could fake like I'm okay because I couldn't really explain what I was experiencing or what was happening. And my thoughts had consumed me so much to where I just kind of gave up with paying for stuff, with taking care of stuff. Like I couldn't physically push the submit button to pay my car note, all the like daily expenses that we need, the things that I didn't already have on auto draft. And I'm a full-time entrepreneur, so if you don't make money, you don't bring in money and you don't have money to spend. I was doing just enough to get by. And when I was trying to figure out what I was dealing with or what I was experiencing and how could I explain it to somebody, it felt like I had a have you ever felt a weighted blanket?
Yeah.
It felt like I had a wet weighted blanket on me and I was just trying to push through and I couldn't explain. At the same time, I'm in the helping profession, so I'm helping other people navigate what they have going on while I don't really understand what I'm experiencing.
Sure.
And so I had gained a lot of weight, and I was talking to one of my brothers, and he said, well, maybe you should start focusing on trying to figure out how to take care of the weight first, and maybe those steps will lead you to something. And it did. So I looked into the weight and I ended up going to this clinic where they do your metabolic labs, your testosterone, estrogen, and I think the other one, I can never remember the other one. My testosterone was a -3. I didn't know women needed testosterone. And so because my testosterone was a -3, they're supposed to be between 17 and 40 for women. And I was depleted, but I didn't know how long I had been depleted. So I started getting hormone replacements, and it felt like the sun had started to come out. Like somebody came in the room and opened the blinds, and immediately I was thirsty. I wanted to drink water. I wanted to sit outside in the sun. And I was like, wait a minute. When I looked back, I was like, oh my God, I have really messed up some stuff. But me learning how to navigate that also helped me influence and empower other people how to navigate it as well. I had several clients who was experiencing some of the same things and they didn't know how to work through it. So I'm like, well, maybe you should go get your labs checked. And it just took me down a whole rabbit hole of, oh, wow, I didn't know that this was another aspect of something that we needed to understand. And I didn't know how devastating having a health crisis could affect your quality of life.
So I want to sit here for a minute because as you're talking, and I think this was the thing that actually pulled it together for me because I was like, man, and even in my current state right now, and like I want to, and if you don't mind, I'm gonna kind of navigate this conversation around dealing with grief
Let's do it.
because I believe that so everything that you are saying, and as you know, and the viewers and people are watching know, they know my story. And if you guys don't, go back to the first episode and watch the first episode. But I believe that there's a part of grief that you become chemically unbalanced in
Yes.
areas. Everything that you're describing is what I have been experiencing and have experienced during this season of grief and not understanding and even when I'm going to the doctors and talking to the doctors about my thoughts are racing and I get stuck on the couch and I can't get, like, everything you're talking about, I completely understand, and I am going through it actually as we speak, which I want to go get my metabolic, because I actually had a friend of mine who did that, and I want to go get my metabolic system checked to see where I am imbalanced at, because I believe that that is almost like a grief hack in a certain sense when it comes to having that understanding about yourself, because understanding that and putting the right things in place and balancing that back out makes this journey a lot easier.
Yes.
Because I can tell you from experience, I'm still on the journey, but it still is a tough, hard journey. And I think that that is a grief hack that I am glad that you actually have brought this up and you're talking about this, because I believe that that is something that I want to go do immediately as soon as I get back. Because I'm like, I need a sabbatical because I feel burnt out. My brain won't stop racing. I was literally talking to a friend this morning at the gym, and I was like, and everybody's answers are different. Like, he was like, man, we have until this time. And I agree with him from the entrepreneur standpoint. Yeah, we do only have, as an entrepreneur, your output decreases as you get older, just as you're physically able to just do the same output as an entrepreneur that you were when you were younger. And I believe that I was like, yeah, but I feel like there's something else. And no one that I can talk to, they haven't been able to put their pin on it, their finger on it. And I think this is the first time where I'm like, okay, there's something chemically imbalancing that's maybe contributing to why. Because I told him, I was like, when I'm sleeping, my brain just won't shut off. It's working while I'm sleeping. And he was like, well, that's a good thing. I was like, it ain't a good thing for me, especially when I gotta wake
down at least a little bit.
Yeah, especially when I gotta wake up and tussle with a tiny tot in the morning. So, like, I'm trying to get that good sleep in. So, yeah, that is actually great. But we could continue. I'm going to continue. But I believe that when it comes to grief, I think we need to look into how chemically imbalanced we are and how that could be contributing. And I'm not saying that that's not going to take away from, yes, you're still going to be sad. You're still going to, that's not going to take away from that. But this is something
it makes
to
it a
help.
little more manageable.
Absolutely. And that is a missing key that I believe that we should all look at, because even when I talk to therapists and they say, well, you got their stages of grief and everybody grieves differently. I agree with that. But I know that I like to deconstruct things.
Yep.
And then see why things are the way that they are and why and this has been a grief journey that I've been just deconstructing. And this is a part that I believe that is a key and crucial part to me understanding from the chemical imbalance part. So
I also think that, so our stress hormone cortisol, it is responsible for telling us that there's something we need to pay attention to. And it keeps us out of danger. But for many of us, our cortisol is always at a high level. So it's like the candle is always burning. And if we don't know how to, or don't have the time to manage the small things that help us manage our cortisol, of course, our bodies are just going to be like out of whack, need to be recalibrated. I also was going through grief. I was grieving empty nesting. It was my first. I heard about empty nesting, but I didn't really understand, because I don't think anybody ever really explained it to me to where I could understand what empty nesting meant. I thought you were supposed to be happy that your kids are older and that they're moving on, but I realized that my identity was attached to being a mom, and my excuses were attached to being a mom too. So I can't go because my calendar is full, or I can't go, or I can't do this, or I can't do that because I have to do this for my kids. And I had tied everything I did around them. And so now that they're moving on in life, I'm just like, what am I supposed to do with myself?
Sure. No, so I get you tied that back in together, and that makes sense because you were grieving. And I think that is, once again, such a strong, powerful tool that
Yeah.
can be, because and that's the thing, when I talk to people about preparation and when I have these conversations, like these are conversations that expand outside of what everybody thinks that preparation just has to do, which is death and dying and
Right.
trust and wills. But I'm like, you don't know what you don't know until you know. And the only
Yeah.
way for you to really know is to go through it. But if you can get the information to make certain preparations, like understanding that, okay, well, when this happens, I know that this is going to happen, but I've done this to prepare for this. So it should help me manage this a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
And every time when you talk about preparation, people are like, well, I don't want to talk about, but I'm like, okay, well, we're going to experience it because we all do. So
You can be
yeah, that
proactive or reactive.
yeah. And that's so in regards to shifting from allowing yourself to receive like support in that area, because for me, I am a person that I actually am an advocate of therapy. I'm an advocate of support, but I am an advocate of the right support. How
Mm-hmm.
did you differentiate between the right support versus just, because I went through the same thing. The support that I was looking for was support where my own expectations, I had an expectation of how I thought somebody should show up versus how they did show up, and then had to understand that there's specific type of people and support that I have to seek out. How did you differentiate that? And what are some tools that people can use when they're in a grief state to be able to seek out that proper person? And whether if it is through losing a loss or empty nesting.
At the same time, I was also dealing with, I had lost all of my long term friends. Friends from ninth grade, from first year of college, from when I was in my early 20s. Those connections had evolved into just being non existent anymore. So my supports, people that I would usually talk to or reach out to, weren't even available for me anymore. It was a lonely time, but I really think I needed that time because that was when I developed my spirituality more. And I had to figure out, like, what's my relationship with God right now? Are we cool? Am I mad at him? Can I trust him? What we doing? And so I had to go back to that and just really giving myself permission to redefine what my spiritual relationship is and what that connection looks like based on what I need. And also me learning how to receive was really challenging. But I read this book. It's called What Happened to You. It's by Oprah and another guy. He was a brain scientist, and I love neuroscience. And in the book, he said, you know, we have been taught as a society that you're supposed to do things alone, that you're supposed to figure it out. You're supposed to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And if you don't figure it out, that means you're weak or you're lazy. But we're not supposed to do life alone. We're supposed to live life in community. And so I started to give myself permission to find out, like, what does my community look like and what do I need? And the first thing I did was I joined a book club because it was low maintenance, it was low effort, but somebody was looking for me and it gave me a reason to show up. But
Sure.
I'm not having to show up and perform, I'm just showing up and participating. And that little thing helped me because also the books we were reading helped me with the curiosity, helped me with finding, like, going in other parts of my brain that I hadn't had the opportunity to visit because I'm so busy focusing on ruminating about the things that I'm worried about. And that was where I started. And then it just kind of flowed from there. I'm still navigating it. I'm still figuring it out, but also giving myself permission to, I got a virtual assistant. I hated answering the phones because as a clinician answering the phones, people automatically assume that this is an opportunity to get in a therapy session right quick. And my people pleasing tendencies want to give them something. So me getting a virtual assistant kind of put some space in between that so that I could focus on the things that I needed to focus on. And those are the places that I started, and I'm still working it out.
Sure. And when it comes to, I guess, this season about letting go. What do you believe this season taught you or is teaching you about not only your own resilience, but the power of letting go?
I have learned that in order for me to really claim abundance, I have to be willing to receive. In order to receive, I got to be willing to ask because people are in their own minds and they don't know what you need. They can assume, but they don't really know. So, in order for me to know what I need, I got to know what I want. And having these conversations with myself on a regular basis gives me the space to try to figure it out.
Sure. And that's good. And I think also when it comes to having the space to figure it out, which goes into the next thing that I wanted to talk about as well. I'm excited is boundaries. And I think, as you have stated, boundaries protect your emotional wealth. So as the founder of Bougie Boundaries, which I want to hear more about that, but your work helps people create emotional wealth. How did your crisis deepen your understanding about boundaries, and how did Bougie Boundaries all just come about?
So, bougie boundaries, many of the relationship, not many, but the few relationships I've been in the past, especially when I was married, I learned about narcissism. And I didn't really know what that was, but it took me down a rabbit hole of understanding the dynamics of narcissistic people, people who everything in life has to be about them, for them, because of them. And it's related back to like them being comfortable with knowing what they want and what they need and being able to ask for it and receive it. As a recovering people pleaser, aka the strong friend, we're the plug, the liaison, we're the crisis management coordinator. We're the one that's going to hold all of the things together. And when we're younger, we like it because it makes us feel like we have value. But as we get older, it's exhausting because why y'all can't figure this out without me? But I've already put myself in a position to be able to do those things.
Yeah.
So, me learning how to unlearn those things, I learned about wait, you're too nice or you're too strict, which means that you don't have healthy boundaries. This is me talking to myself. And I thought boundaries were about no. Boundaries were like a gate or a fence, or like you build your house and your castle and you have like a little moat around it. But actually, boundaries are like your standard operation policy. Your boundaries are, when I was in the military, we had to keep this little card that had a list of things that we could or couldn't do in combat and keep it in our Kevlars, in our hat. So if you came across enemy fire, you know what to do. If we came across enemy fire, we were supposed to still take care of somebody if they were still alive in some way or another. So I said, oh, wait, I need my own list of things for myself, things that I am going to use to guide myself by. And so I can learn how to navigate based on what I want and what I need. And having the courage to do that is scary because you're not saying yes and you're not saying no, but you got to figure out like what is going to help guide you. And I realized that I loved helping people so much that my boundaries were ghetto. Everybody could come to the projects over here. I'm giving you the shirt off my back. And then when I learned, wait, we're not supposed to give people the shirt off our backs. There's to be some qualifiers in some way or another so that I can make sure that I'm good. And that was where bougie boundaries came from because, it used to be not cool to call yourself bougie.
Yeah.
So having some type of luxury guidelines, but also knowing that I need to have something that's worth guarding, something that's worth protecting. What makes me feel like I need to have bougie boundaries. And bougie boundaries to me just means that people should have a level of access to you. Everybody should not have the same access. And paying attention to like what your qualities are and why are people connecting themselves to you. Boundaries are your desires and expectations for yourself and having the courage to share that with other people because they might reject you.
Sure. And Why do you think people struggle so much with boundaries, especially during a crisis or experiencing a loss or during grief? Like, why are boundaries so hard to just put in place?
I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I feel like I have been removing the word deserve from my vocabulary. You know, people say, well, you deserve it. You deserve it. You
Mm,
deserve this. You deserve that. I don't want my boundaries to be based around what I deserve, because what I deserve changes over time, and it changes based on whose perspective it is. Do I want it or do I don't want it?
sure.
That's it. And what am I willing to do? And what's the middle of the road for that I can be okay with if I don't get it? And so I think it's a challenge for people because it could lead to them being rejected. It could lead to them feeling abandoned. Also, based on our attachment style, some people aren't comfortable with saying, girl, I actually don't want you to come to my party because you're not going to be okay with the other people that are there.
Sure. And I think that I struggled with that during this last season of going through what I was going through, where I'm much better at it now,
Yeah.
where I received, people would call and I would just answer everybody's calls, and I would, want everybody to come. And now the boundaries that I set are based upon the peace that I need in order to continue to make sure that what I have going on and the support for myself and my son, I had an expectation that people were going to understand.
Yeah.
They're not going to understand. That was my own naive expectation based upon other people. So I can't hold them accountable for something that they just can't comprehend. And I used to get upset because I had an expectation of something that they couldn't comprehend. But now I also realized that, and maybe there was a part of me people pleasing where I would do things because I wanted people to know that, or I wanted to maybe include them, and I thought that that was going to make my situation easier, despite of how maybe toxic or maybe how dysfunctional or chaotic or stressful they made my situation. Or I would not let things go. I'm in this season now where, and I guess it goes back to just being selfish. When you're a people pleaser, you want to feel like you're not being selfish.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe that there is a healthy way of being selfish.
I agree.
And I think that it's a necessary part of your healing. You have to be selfish in a season, because if
Yeah.
you don't, you will be the demise of your own self by not being able to be selfish, because there's certain things that you have to take care of, you have to say no to in order to make sure you're protected. And people aren't going to always understand that.
And they're not going to be okay with it either.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I
And
like, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I like using the word selfish, but for those of us who aren't selfish, we'll never actually be selfish. We just need the
Sure.
word for connotation. The word is
Mm-hmm.
actually, the word we're looking for is actually self-preservation.
Mm.
And who taught us that? Like, people taught us
Yeah.
hygiene, people taught us how to do this, how to do that, but did they really teach us self-preservation? Most of the time they didn't, because either they didn't know or it's not beneficial.
And that is actually another part of grief, is self-preservation,
Yeah.
because we don't realize how much of ourselves that we've lost and we're rebuilding back. But the other part of ourself continues to decay because of a lack of self-preservation, of us just giving when we need to be selfish in that season.
Oh, yeah.
And I've learned that from personal experience as well. I decayed myself down to a place where I'm like, I'm just mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually just exhausted, because I did not allow myself to preserve what I had, even if they didn't understand. And even, when it comes to my son and my wife's side of the family, people want to see, Ocean, and they want to see, my wife's son. Before I was like, okay, well, let me try to plan this trip and go here. But it's like, listen, if you guys want to see him, come see him.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to continue to overstretch myself to try to, like, make you guys happy, like, If it works and it makes sense, then it works and it makes sense. If it
Right.
doesn't, it doesn't. But it is not my job to always make sure that you're available or you are free or it aligns in your schedule to
Mm-hmm.
come and see him. And if you don't want to get a plane ticket to come out here and come see him, then you don't want to do that. And that's
Mm-hmm.
not my concern. I can't, I'm not going to continue to decay myself because of that's a choice that you're making.
Yeah.
So I think, like you said, saying no can be one of the most loving things for ourselves, but also for others.
Yeah. Because when we say no to them, what are we saying yes to for ourselves?
Sure.
And we
Sure.
feel like we should have to deserve to say yes. Like, I deserve that ice cream. No, do you want the ice cream or not? Do you want to wear it later? Are you going to
Sure.
be worried about wearing this ice cream later? Like, what we going to do? What do you want? One of the toughest questions I ask my clients that I work with is, what do you want? Most of the time, we don't know what we want because we are filtering things through what we need, what we can manage, and what we won't have to ask people for.
That's good.
But if I
That's
say, what
good.
do you want? Then you're like, ugh, you got to go to another part of your brain to give yourself permission to explore, what do I really want? And a lot of people don't know what they want. They just know what they don't want.
And and you're right, because I'm even in that season where just having a conversation with my business coach, and he was going to send me over these questions as we were going to move into a different way of start to work. And it was me communicating and identifying what I want. And I had reached out to him and I said, hey, I'm just not in a mental space to be able to do this. But I didn't know how to communicate it, but understanding that it's a differentiation between what do I want, but I was filtering it through what can I manage?
Mm-hmm.
And where am I at emotionally right now? And what is the cost going to be of that right now? That's what his questions were being filtered through.
Mm-hmm.
And I was explaining to him that I need to go back. Well, I have to go back and have a conversation with him, but explain to him that I cannot authentically communicate that because I don't have the actual correct filter to filter that through to be able to give you a authentic answer.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And exploring what you don't want can help you do a better job of getting to that closer.
I agree. I agree because there were some things that I was communicating to him that I don't want, but it wasn't necessarily or specifically tied to just where I'm currently at. It was also a holistic look at where I am, where I've been, and then where I want to be that maybe doesn't fit or facilitate the framework of what it is that are the people that you work with. And if that's the case, that's okay. Even though I do think there's alignment and synergy there, but I still have to be okay with what it is that I actually truly want.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And so the tough part of boundaries is the feelings. So the strong friend, people pleaser, the plug, the go-to person, we don't do feelings because feelings don't make sense. We have to
sure.
stay in what's logical for us. If it makes sense, and if you can make it make sense, then it makes sense. But feelings don't make sense. And so learning how to expand your vocabulary around feelings, knowing that there's other feelings out there aside from mad, happy, sad, upset, some kind of way, can help us get closer to the emotional wealth that we don't know that is like just waiting to come up. Feelings, I also feel like feelings are one of the ways that God talks to us because feelings don't make sense. And if he uses our feelings to help us be more in alignment with what he wants for us and what his will is, then when you have an experience and you're like, something told me to make a left. So I
Yeah.
went ahead and made a left. And you may have found a beach that you didn't even know was possible, but you found it because you listened to that voice in you that said, make a left. And so when it comes to boundaries and us avoiding having boundaries, we're really avoiding the uncomfortable feelings. We're avoiding somebody not talking to us. We're avoiding not being invited to the party. we're avoiding not being included in the group trip. So we'd
And
rather
that
suppress what we want for the benefit of keeping the peace for everybody else.
and that makes sense. Like you said, I think a lack of boundaries is avoiding that feeling of feeling whatever it is you're going to feel from
Yeah.
creating those boundaries. So
Yes.
you're just like, oh, if I don't have any boundaries and nobody gets hurt and nobody gets upset, then I'll be the one to just carry that. And then we can keep going, but not knowing that we're just tacking more things onto us and then pushing us down.
Right. While your cortisol is like, oh, we're getting higher and higher and
Sure.
higher. And that cortisol turns into inflammation. Inflammation is the silent killer that people are talking about when they say stress kills, because inflammation is what causes our body to attack itself.
And that's good. Which I want to have this conversation also with the therapist. I mean, a chiropractor and a
Mm-hmm.
trainer, but I think I want to touch on it from a therapist standpoint. And I haven't read the book, but there's a book called The Body Keeps Count
Body keeps
and
score.
A Body Keeps Score. And I don't know if this is tied into the same context, but
It is.
okay. I kind of figured it was. So when a person is grieving, the physical state of their body,
Mm-hmm.
how is their physical state of their body storing this energy and this from their
Mm-hmm.
environment and their conversations, which obviously tie back to not having the proper boundaries in place. So you invite and allow all of that to be stored onto you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm actually now, as I say, entrepreneurship is a full-time sport. It's a year-round sport, and taking care of your mental, your emotional, and your physical state, it just requires work and requires, finances to be able to do that because your body breaks down. But that's because you are keeping all of that stuff. It's being stored onto you. So when you're in that grief state, can you maybe, if you are able to maybe articulate how these conversations from a lack of boundaries stores
Mm-hmm.
that information onto the human body and what they're having to carry with that?
I had a death in the family and recently. And so I have been make sure that I am being family oriented and not like withdrawing and retreating. And so I've been having conversations and talking to family members that I probably wouldn't normally have conversations with on a regular everyday basis. And I was talking to somebody last week and I felt myself go into HR mode. I felt my conversation be real 9 to 5 ish. And in the moment, I was thinking, why am I doing this? I felt myself do it. I felt myself go from feeling relaxed to like on guard with my conversation and with my body. And later that evening, I was laying in bed and I was like, oh, this person isn't safe. That's why I felt that way. Because I know that pretty much everything we talk about will be repeated. And it might not be repeated with the intentions that I meant or how I said it. And I was upset at myself for even getting comfortable enough at first and relaxed to just, have this lackadaisical conversation. And when I realized it and I said, I need to straighten up, I need to button up, I need to make sure that I don't say stuff that I'm not okay with being repeated. I felt it in my neck and I felt it in my shoulders and I felt it in my back and I felt everything tighten up. I call that healing in real time because I noticed it then versus 2 weeks later.
Sure. That's
And
good.
so when we have those moments on a regular, everyday basis, if you don't give that energy a place to go, then it becomes like impacted in our body and it becomes a part of your personality and who you are and how you show up.
No, you're right. Because when I feel that being stored onto me, I can feel the shortness, the snappiness, that I can feel it. And
Mm-hmm.
when I don't have a place to release that, then you're right. It does continue to build up and transform my physical, where I start feeling the aches and pains. And it goes back to the inflammation and everything that you were talking about, all ties into that. And I believe that once again, when it comes to this whole grief journey,
Yeah.
these are things that I don't think that are coming from a more practical standpoint that a lot of therapists don't talk about or they don't cover, because they talk about that. And you know, a lot of it's self therapy, talk therapy, that these are the conversations and the identifiers that actually help people start to create a bridge
Mm,
from where they're at to where they want to get to, because then they have that context and information on how to lay one brick at a time to start
mm.
building that bridge, opposed to standing on this side of the cliff and this side of the cliff and just talking about what you want to build and where you hope to get to. They don't have the actual tools to actually build it by one brick at a time.
I can see that. I can
Yeah,
see that.
no, this is revelation to me. Like,
Yeah.
and this is what I haven't been able to articulate to therapists, and why I've gone through so many is because what I'm looking for is the brick, the cement, the water, like how to lay this one brick and then step there and then lay another one, step there. I don't
Hmm.
want to just keep talking to you about the bridge that I want to build. And I don't want you to just keep telling me and inspiring me to build a bridge. I want the instructions on how to start to break down the actual plans of building that bridge and laying one brick at a time. And I have not been able to find that information or get that type of help from a therapist.
Yeah. And really the bricks are just learning feelings. Learning. I have them everywhere because I didn't know so many were out there, like list of emotions and feeling words. Think about the last time you felt amazed. Do you got it?
Yeah.
Where do you feel that in your body?
And my stomach and my chest.
And you can also feel grief at the same time because both can exist, but the ones that we feed are the ones that grow.
That's good. Yep, you're right. Because I feel both of the. I At times I feel, and it's pertaining to, because it's pertaining to my son. When I look at him, I'm just amazed of how much he just reminds me so much of her. But then
Hmm.
I feel the grief at the same time
Yeah.
because he's not getting a chance to experience that. So I feel both of those things at the same exact time.
Yeah. And that's going to be a lot of pressure for him over time because we love to be connected with people that remind us of somebody that we cared about. You know, we want to hear their laugh, we want to see their eyes. And he's like, I'm just playing with blocks. What are you guys doing?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Stop
No,
hugging me.
that is true.
So that's a little snippet of showing you how like our feelings are stored in our body, but we also have good ones there too.
No, that is good. And I think from this conversation, I do want to land this plane because there's you're going to have other conversations. There's actually two more conversations that I want to have with you that I think what we have as far as framework for boundaries and what you have laid out is actually fantastic for someone to digest,
Mm.
because I'm going to take it in a completely different direction. But I want to have a separate conversation about that because there's two other separate ones that, we'll chat, after this offline
Okay.
about conversations that I want to have, because I think they're great as well to have follow up conversations. But so I will say this, and this is hopefully she's granting me a part two and a part three, but this will be part one of this conversation. And we will have a continued conversation about a part two of how all of this will then end up pulling together. But yeah, I think that this is great. And I want to be able to, one, if you could let people know how to find you, where to find you, if they're looking to get therapy, if they're looking to get mindset coaching, if they're looking to connect with you directly, if they're looking to help put their boundaries in place, where can they connect with you at?
You can connect with me at stoppingthechase.com. Also on social media, I'm Montoyia McGowan, or the Bougie Black Therapist, Bougie Boundaries Therapist.
Awesome.
On social media.
Awesome. Well, Montoyia, thank you. Thank you for the courage, for your wisdom, and for you reminding us that preparation and boundaries aren't restrictions, but they are freedom.
Yeah.
And thank you for including actual practical steps and takeaways that people can actually use now. And to everyone that's listening, you don't have to suffer alone. Preparation is love, boundaries are protection, and the curiosity is the key to healing. Because when the what if happens, you would have wished you had. I am your host, Jason Brown. I will see you guys next time right here. Remember, like, share, subscribe. And also, if you guys are looking for additional resources, please check the links below. If you are going through a loss, or if you've experienced a loss, or you are just looking for more tools to help better prepare yourself, please click the link below. I would love to guide you guys in the right direction. So once again, this is Jason Brown. I'm your host at When What If Happens, and thank you.